not want to start this without giving a chance for Denise to not introduce herself, but reintroduce herself. She is a well-known individual in our community. She's not often here at Judge's Breakfast. I am so glad that she was able to say yes to wanting to be here, and so I want to give her a chance to introduce herself.
Thank you. Denise Rushing. I served 2 terms on the Lake County Board of Supervisors, and I left in 2015, just before the Valley Fire. And I attempted to retire, but instead I went and ran the California Clean Energy Fund for a year, and then I retired. So right now I'm involved in Indivisible Lake County with the leadership team. We've got a couple of our leadership team here. There are, starting in May, we really started up in May reinvigorating Indivisible, and since that time 600 people have signed up to get information on what's going on. And just to put that in perspective, I worked with the Sierra Club for a number of years, and I think our grand total was 400 people over, in the decade that we worked in the Sierra Club. So that gives you a sense of the interest in what's happening right now.
So it's an honor to have Denise here for what I think is an important conversation, Prop 50. I do want to give out a quick disclaimer. I am not affiliated with any campaign. I am not affiliated with any group. I have personal feelings on this, and I think it's an important topic and discussion for us to have. I wanted to make sure and put that out front. Denise has asked or agreed that I will just present Prop 50 with the facts. It is a simple yes or no, 50% plus 1 majority wins type of vote. This would, you've seen in your booklets that you received, I put the maps up there. A yes vote would change from these current congressional districts to these new proposed congressional districts. It would last from 2026 to 2031, and in 2031 is supposed to revert back to the Citizens Commission to doing redistricting based on the 2030 census. I think that's as simple as the explanation of Prop 50 needs to be. We will discuss the reasons why it's happening, or the reasons why it should not be happening, and we are going to do 10 minutes each. And
10 minutes each? Oh, okay.
Yeah, or less, it's up to you. And we will start with Denise on the Prop 50 yes side.
10 minutes. Wow.
Is that too little?
Yeah, no, it's too much.
Yeah.
Too much. I mean,
take what you need.
For me, this is really simple. First of all, I will say that I, too, am not affiliated with any campaign. I'm working with Indivisible Lake County, which is concerned about the authoritarian overreach at the federal level. And it's a group of concerned citizens. We talked about it being nonpartisan. It is truly nonpartisan, and we've at the last protest rally, I saw all different manner of people from both sides of the aisle. For me, our little group actually wrestled with this issue when the issue first came up. And we wrestled with it for a couple of reasons with one lens. And the lens was, will this work to stop what's happening? We have a situation in our country that's authoritarian overreach. And so much so that this regime is actually asking states to gerrymander in their favor mid-district or mid-decade, which is unheard of. It hasn't happened before. So a number of states have considered this, and the one that went first was Texas. So they gerrymandered 5 more seats for Congress in Texas. Now, you can overcome that kind of gerrymandering with massive voter turnout and massive agreement that this administration's on the wrong side of what the people want. However, we're in a divided situation, and so a lot of people really aren't paying attention to actually what's happening. So one thing I thought I would do, since for my vote on this, it came down to one issue: will this make a difference in stopping that authoritarian overreach or not? Is it going to cause some kind of escalation of everybody doing their own gerrymandering? The first thing I would say is that gerrymandering actually is a little bit of a double-edged sword. In fact, in Texas, they may find that they've gerrymandered themselves some more Democratic seats, just because when people are upset, when you offend an entire population, including the Hispanic population in Texas, you might find that you didn't get exactly what you bargained for there. But Bruno and I both, and Bruno sits on the Board of Supervisors, I sat on the Board of Supervisors, we all take an oath. If you've been in the military, you take an oath. So how many of you have been in the military or have taken the oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States? Okay, a number of you have taken that oath. It's an important oath because the Constitution is basically the law of the land.
Sorry, I should have raised my hand for taking the oath.
Okay,
yes,
good.
Sorry.
I also would like to know how many of you have not yet voted in this election? Okay, so how many of you have voted? All right, so we have maybe a half and half. Of those of you who have not yet voted, how many of you have not made up your mind? Okay, so I'm talking to Mike, and what's your name? Randy. Mike and Randy and Mary, the three, so those are the people who have not yet made up their mind. I'm not surprised. I was going to say, what are we doing here? We got three people, so you convince the three, and maybe I'll convince you.
I was hoping to convince you.
Yeah, I already voted. So when a leader places himself above the law and uses the instruments of government to punish his opponents, the people not only have the right to act, but the duty to act. We often say, we're often upset at both political parties. I too have been upset at Democrats. It bothers me that Democrats are the one thing standing between us and fascism. That's, if you think about it, it's like, oh my God, they've been accused of being weak. They've been accused of not standing up for the people. And both political parties can be held accountable for the rise of oligarchy in the United States of America. They both have sided with corporations, one party more so than the other. But we now face a crisis of housing, a crisis of food, and the crisis of food is about to get even worse, given something we'll talk about later maybe. We face a crisis in the cost of living, and so much of what Congress is doing is not for the people at all. We could all argue on policy, and that's where we would be, arguing on policy. But at this point, we face an emergency. And the emergency is that we have a federal regime that is wanting to take over the government, wanting to fire federal workers. And I took the liberty of listing the items in the Declaration of Independence that apply here, right? Here are a few of the grievances that the founders had in that document that speak to us so powerfully today. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislature. He has cut off our trade with all parts of the world. He has obstructed the administration of justice. He has deprived us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury. He has imposed taxes on us without our consent. He has transported us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses. He has excited domestic insurrections among us. Our founders fought against a corrupt king. And here we are, it's our turn. He has ordered military airstrikes off the Venezuelan coast without the consent of Congress, resulting in the death of civilians, acts both unconstitutional and unlawful. He has declared that citizens and organizations opposing him are terrorist threats, including indivisible, by the way. I guess I'm a terrorist threat now, which allows a whole different kind of law to apply to those individuals. He has deployed federal troops into the cities, blue cities, Los Angeles, Portland, Chicago. He was ordered by a federal judge to stop and did not stop at that order for at least almost a full day. He has directed the Department of Justice to prosecute his political opponents, turning the law into an instrument of revenge. He has violated his oath, subverted the separation of powers, and corrupted every safeguard meant to protect the republic from tyranny. And I say he, when we all know that he's probably not the one that's actually running things right now. I mean, he's getting his will, he's running by watching TV. So he's issued over 200 executive orders governing by decree, usurping the powers of Congress. He's pushed his executive authority into the realm of illegality, according to the Supreme Court now in a 7-2 decision. We'll see how much he abides by that. But if you were in any other country during the rise of fascism, during the rise of authoritarianism, you would want the parties in place to use their power to stop it. Because once it's in place, it's very difficult to get it out, right? Once an authoritarian takeover has happened, it may be decades before you can get that government back. And so we're facing an emergency right now. This is not business as usual. This is not really, for me, for my vote, this isn't about the maps, although it'd be great if Mike McGuire served our county, and Mike Thompson will always remember us and will be back when in 2031, assuming we have a government then. But I'm telling you now, and I really believe this at the bottom of my heart, we are facing an emergency that we have to use whatever legal tool at our disposal. We haven't seen the Democratic Party step up with much courage in the past, using their power to stop what's going on. This is one instance where, we have a governor who is actually giving it his best shot. He's stepping up, he's attempting to use his power, and he's going to the people and trying to make the case to us, saying this is such an emergency, it's a referendum on this administration, we need to vote yes because we don't have very many tools in the arsenal. So that's my 2 cents.
You had a minute left.
Yeah, how about that?
All right, 10 minutes. I don't really disagree all that much with some of the things that were stated by Denise. I think I am watching one of the worst examples for my children to look at. The comments being made, the way that he is, and I'm speaking specifically about President Trump, the way he talks about people is not the way a Board of Supervisors should be talking about the companies in Lake County, other agencies in Lake County, in a public format. I think it was Dirk Slutin who said it the best to me one day. Kudos in public, complaints in private. Right? That is not what we are seeing. I am seeing better leadership here in Lake County than I am seeing in the federal government. It is unfortunate what's happening, but there are specific tools that we should be wary about using. Gerrymandering. We are being very specific about using gerrymandering, and that's what Prop 50 is, and there is no hiding from that. Because I'm a political science major, I have to at least go into it. Gerrymander comes from Massachusetts, 1812. Governor Gerry wanted to reorganize the Boston suburbs and did a salamander-looking map. Gerry Salamander became gerrymander. And it was found to be corrupt. It was found to be a way to disenfranchise a specific group of people. Now that is the definition of gerrymandering, is for political reasons, you are selecting certain groups to be diluted so their voice doesn't count. Now look around this room. Not everybody here is of one group. You are saying you are okay with silencing a voice using a tool that has been found to be illegal in many ways. Courts have gone against gerrymandering, saying you're not allowed to do this. Why? Because it was used against people of color. It was used against immigrants. It was used against political parties. And so, to me, I don't want to say that I think the federal government is one of the most unique, that's the best word I can use, situation I've ever seen in my entire life. I have never seen it handled in the way that it's being handled. And it is definitely a curiosity of mine of where are we going to end up if we keep doing what we're doing. This is not democracy when somebody gets to call out what tariffs are, calls out what military actions are, when they get to call out that now we are ownership of certain corporations, which is a really weird thing to me because I thought that was socialism. But our Congress is lame. We have somebody who's making decisions, and it makes me wonder where we're going. But if we choose to fight a monster, you gotta watch that you don't become that same monster. I believe in that comment. That's a Nietzsche philosophy from Germany. It was something that was brought to my attention about the fight against the Nazis, that some of the folks who really fought against the Nazis seem to have stained their souls, stained their hearts in what they saw and what they acted in. Because just like our soldiers come back with PTSD, you don't come back the same when you do things you shouldn't probably be doing. I really want to harp on the disenfranchised part. It should never be okay. We have to hold on to specific values of who we are. And if we're willing to throw away those values when times get tough or times seem miserable or we seem to be going in the wrong direction, then those values never actually meant anything to you. We have to hold on to our values. And the idea of saying yes to disenfranchising our neighbors or entire communities because we disagree with where they're going, that is a very anti-democratic statement to make, and that is a dangerous direction to go. There are other tools, there are other ways to protest and stop what is happening that we disagree with. One of my favorite books that I read, again, political science, was Plato's Republic. If you ever get the chance, it is one of the most amazing books that I've ever read. There are so many teachings. Now, there's also horrible teachings that we've learned and evolved from. You are not born with a certain quality of stone, and that's as good as you'll ever get in life. I think everyone has the ability to grow into an amazing human being, or is an amazing human being, and has the ability to find opportunity. But one of the things that he teaches you is a very philosophical, I taught my kids this since they were like 2 years old. If you get hurt, you can mend your bone, you can mend the pain. If you hurt someone else, you are losing a piece of your soul, if you do it purposely. And I see this as us losing a piece of our democratic soul in the sense that, do we believe in democracy or do we not? Because you can't choose when you believe in something. You can't choose when you value something. You have to be true to those words. I mean, we've had entire civil rights movements that are about these things that today we're saying we're going to vote yes on, or in reverse. Change it from a conservative perspective to a person of color. I want to disenfranchise that group of people. If it's wrong for one, then the whole action itself is wrong, no matter what you replace that name with, that is right now conservatives. And it's just not the right direction to go, and it scares me what it does to us. It's only gonna increase division. Yes, Texas is doing it. They're just as bad for doing it. I don't care for what they're doing. They should not be doing it. I don't care that Donald Trump, our president, is asking for these things that are happening. It is absurd that we are falling into the trap of how fast can we get to the basement apartment. We should be lifting ourselves up, not racing to the bottom. That is not the country that I moved to. This is not the country that I've learned about. This is about evolution, not the opposite. We have changed so much.
Timing yourself, huh?
Oh, I did. There we go. See, I did. Okay, you got it.
Are you sure about it?
It's not fair.
One of the things, if I do it, you do it. So again, our children are watching. If the football team is cheating, should we cheat too? Or do we teach them, no, go high. We're going to beat them with the rules that are asked of all of us to pass. If the other team's taking steroids, should we all start taking steroids? Like, where do we stop with this idea of things that are wrong, but only when I feel it's right? Well, obviously, it's not everybody that feels it's right. It's a division within our population. We have learned so much from the past. We put people up on pedestals that we have learned from the past, and yet we ignore them. Just a really quick caveat. It's kind of like Lake Pillsbury and suddenly climate change doesn't exist. We don't even want to talk about it, right? Like, things do not cease to exist because it doesn't fit in your topic. They should always be in existence. We have learned so much from people like Martin Luther King, where you peacefully march You don't treat the other like you are being treated, because as soon as you look like you're a perpetrator as well, you've lost your entire voice to say things need to change, stop victimizing populations. This is why they did the nonviolence protest training, because most people react. You have to be trained to be on the front line where people spit on you, throw rocks at you, and you do not throw those things back or spit back, or else you lose your movement. I fear that whatever this is going to be detrimental. I appreciate that you spoke about blowback in Texas. I think there's the potential for blowback in California. California was much more purple than it ever was blue in this last election, including Lake County, at 55% voting for Trump. The idea that this solves a problem is not a solution. There are many other solutions. I'm not going to act like I know what those solutions are. And I'm also not going to tell you to do things that are probably illegal, like not paying your taxes or things like that. But there are ways to protest that does not require us to stoop to a level that we have been trying to overcome and surpass over the many decades of trying to evolve into a better nation. And I'll stop there.
Okay. Oh, 31 seconds. Cool.
So we offered a 2-minute rebuttal.
Yeah, I'll just make a couple of points. First of all, I'd like to read Gary Mays, Dr. Gary Mays, who submitted a letter to the New York Times, and it was published in the New York Times. I think said it best. I'm going to read his letter. We recently received our first mailing telling us to vote no on Prop 50. The mailing was paid for by Charles T. Munger, the author of Do Not Re-Gerrymander California. Prop 50, unofficially known as the Election Rigging Response Act, will level the playing field. It's temporary by design and expires in 2030. I applaud Mr. Munger's earlier efforts to ensure fair redistricting in California. However, in 2025, we face a crisis in our democracy. Californians need to respond and make sure Congress is representative of the will of the voters. What Congress really needs to do is pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and make equitable redistricting the law everywhere. Yes, it should happen. I think probably the most valid argument against Prop 50 is the one that Bruno made, which is, someone punches you in the face, you don't punch back. But he also said, we have other tools, and I sure would like to know what they are. We've been protesting. 7 to 8 million people were out in the largest peaceful protest in American history. And this administration, instead of complying, decided to tear down the East Wing of the White House, making big news to try to drown out the news cycle. This president is very good at managing the news cycle and at dominating and grabbing the levers of power. I don't believe we will have a free and fair election if we do not stop this administration. I don't believe that democracy will survive this. I think that whatever tools we have available are what we need to use to stop. It's not gerrymandering by race. It is, the map is gone, but it is gerrymandering. It is gerrymandering, no question about it. It is gerrymandering. And it is in response to the gerrymandering that's happening. There should be a law, and there isn't. This has all been by trust that, we only draw districts after the census, and we leave them for 10 years. And then we draw them again when there's another census. This is an interrupt. This is one that says we don't have many tools at our disposal. We need to fight this or we won't have another chance at it. And so I'm yes on 50.
I'm not sure how many of you have read Animal Farm, but I feel like I'm living part of Animal Farm. It was a group of animals. I believe the pig's name was Napoleon, if I remember the book correctly. Yeah. He was the leader of the movement, took over, and actually it just got worse. Because it's easy to see things that are wrong, but when you do things wrong in order to try to get to a right, it makes it really difficult to be successful. And so I just think we need to be careful. I think we need to understand what we're saying yes to. I understand why there's a push to do this. I understand the not wanting to see what's happening at the federal level. I don't agree with what's happening at the federal level, but I think I'll add this. When I was 18, I became part of the Peace and Freedom because it sounded cool, but then I realized what it was, so I got out. And then I eventually...
I was a Republican.
I eventually joined and became a Democrat because many of my views align more with Democrats. But right around the time, either right before COVID or at COVID, I lost my ability to continue. And to me, we had already lost some of those values. During COVID, I talked to Tony Thurman is his name. He's the head of our education in the state of California. And I told him that Brown versus Board of Education says, the court case findings, it is inherently unequal to have separate facilities. We had sent all of our kids home to separate facilities. Private school wasn't necessarily, they had their choice, but the rest had to be forced. How do we live in a world where Brown versus Board of Education is the status of which we live, but yet all of a sudden ignore it because we're dealing with COVID? Instead of pouring tons and tons of money to make schools safe, make school accessible, and create equality across the board, it was obvious who was going to be hurt by sending everybody home. And the answer I got was, we're doing the best we can. I hear you. If equality is your thing, and suddenly you throw it out the door when shit gets hard, then it's not your thing. It doesn't mean anything to you. You have to hold on to what you have. You say what tools?
Yeah.
My favorite example in history is Brown versus Board of Education. It took 40 years to get there. They started with law school because nobody cares about law school. What percentage of us goes to law school? So they started, it was the NAACP, started working on law school to equalize it there. First, they got a separate building because it was still separate and equal. Then they got get to use the same building, but not the same teachers. Then eventually, after 30 years, they said, fine, you can join the rest of the school in Missouri and we can go ahead and integrate that school. And that's when NAACP said, aha, you just messed up. If you do it for one, you got to do it for all. There are tools. There is the law and there is a constitution, and that is still there in existence. And we need to start organizing in ways just like they did back in the day with a good group of lawyers and a good group of activists to be able to fight back. This is not fighting, this is aiming low. So we're gonna end it there, and we're gonna do question and answers. And it looks like we have a hand up from Sam first, and we'll go from there. But thank you. Let's, I don't believe I need to say this, but I'm just going to say it. I know this is a very close and personal topic. I know this can be very partisan. Let's make sure we keep it civil and about the topic and not about specific individuals. Let's keep it clean. Sam.
Okay, so I very much appreciate hearing both sides. And to me, this proposition is exactly what we're talking about. Where instead of and if anybody has read my posts in social media, you'll see that my thoughts around Prop 50, the point of providing an option, a transparent option, that it's not gerrymandering under a covert, non-transparent system, which this administration has recommended be done in, I think it's 12 other states to gerrymander. And when we have someone like Governor Newsom, who is making this a totally transparent, what would I call it, decision that is made by the people, not by the autocrats, not by, not covertly. It's transparent. It's saying, listen, this is what we want to do. We're putting it on the ballot. You can make a decision. That is democracy. We're giving the citizens of California an option. Is this something you want to do, or is this something you don't want to do? That's democracy. That's not going in Texas and saying, if you don't give me those congressional seats, then you're going to get fired, or you're going to have a lawsuit pressed against you, or I'm going to make sure that these fundings, you don't get funding.
Or I'll attack your city.
That's not democracy. What Newsom is doing, and I don't totally agree with Newsom on many issues, but on this one, that is demonstrating democracy. So I understand the positions, but that to me is California demonstrating the tools that they have to use, which is democracy in action. So that's what I need to say.
Thank you. Did you want to give any response, Denise?
No, I think that was good. Well said.
Dave?
This is a hard decision. And when I'm making a hard decision, I sometimes go to sleep on it and I say, if the headline reads X tomorrow, will I be happy or will I be sad, right? How will I feel about that headline? And I have to say I'm going to be happy if Prop 50 passes. And the reason is it sends a signal. It sends a signal that we are not, it's like a protest, right? We're standing out there with our little signs, doing our best, our crowds are growing, and we're saying we are not happy with the current situation. Fix it, right? And the people in power aren't using their power to fix it. So I would just use your gut. Use your gut. Do what you need to do.
Where's the line going to be? Is it going to split the county?
Yeah,
So
it's either
Lake County will be split north and south.
kind of like before.
The south will remain in the Mike Thompson territory.
Very small portion.
And it's mostly the city of Clear Lake and southeast, and everything else north will be whoever it is. Right now it would be LaMalfa, who represents from the Shasta area, the Redding area, but he would have all the way through to Sonoma, which is where, by chance, Mike McGuire happens to live as well, which is why there's the potential that we might see Mike McGuire or somebody else try to throw their hat in the race. It's not more positions, it's just shifting
the lines.
So right now there are 52 positions in Congress in the state of California. 9 of them are currently Republicans, held by Republicans. The concept is based on who voted for who for the presidential election, and using those numbers, it would appear that 5 of those 9 current Republican seats would turn into Democratic seats. That may not happen, but based on how people voted on the last presidential election, it would appear that 5 of those 9 will be turned over to Democratic seats. No additional seats, no changes. In fact, I would say next census, we may lose more seats and be at 51 rather than 52, because California is seeing a bit of a decline, sometimes a rise, but it has seen a decline in population. As far as anything that I've seen that is official from Prop 50 itself, it does not say this is a way to preserve the independent commission. This is a way, it is literally the bill is meant to fight against election rigging by rigging elections. I'll add that part myself, but that's all it says. It doesn't say anything about having to protect the Citizen Oversight Committee. It doesn't do anything of that other than saying it will be back in 2031. Because it's only for 5 years once the next census happens. So if somebody is making that, I do not believe that is an official comment, at least not based on the bills that were passed to put Prop 50 on the ballot, nor is it involved in the writing that I read through again last night to prepare for today on the Prop 50 information that's within your document that you receive with your ballot. So with that, any final words?
Only that the yes vote is defending democracy at this point. We have a duty to use every lawful tool, and lawful and supported by the people. So let's see if the people support this.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
If anybody wants to know about Indivisible, I'm going to leave a few cards here. Indivisible is nonpartisan, and we're working on coming up with tools, if we can, on how to stop what's going on.
I want to thank Denise for coming today. Thank you very much. If you have not voted, please do so. If you know somebody who has not voted, please tell them it's important. Get out there and vote. November 4th, Tuesday. See what happens.